My sister mocked my career choice for years, but now she's begging me for help after losing her job. I had the perfect response. I'm Jake, 36 years old, a software developer and small business owner. I built my company from nothing over the last 10 years, and now I have a steady income, a great team, and a life I can be proud of. But it wasn't always this way. Back when I was just starting out, struggling to make ends meet, my family had no problem reminding me that I wasn't doing anything real with my life. And my sister? She was the loudest critic of all. She's 3 years older than me, and since we were kids, she's always been the overachiever, the perfect one in my parents' eyes. She went to a prestigious business school, then got a high-paying job in finance at a big bank. Meanwhile, I was the odd one out, fumbling through college, barely scraping by, and eventually deciding to dive into the world of tech startups with nothing but a beat-up laptop and a few half-baked ideas. You really think you're going to make a living from, what, coding in your pajamas, she'd say, smirking whenever I mentioned my work. Come on, Jake, get a real job. You're going to be the only one at the family reunion without a career. I never took the bait. I didn't have the luxury of worrying about her approval. I had a company to build. But I'd be lying if I said her words didn't sting. Every holiday, every family dinner, it was the same thing. She'd drop these little digs, making sure I knew how superior her real job was. Over time, I just tuned it out, figuring it wasn't worth the fight. I'd let my success speak for itself someday, and she could deal with it. That someday arrived in the most unexpected way. A few months ago, I heard she'd been laid off. She didn't call me or anything, but our mom let it slip during a family dinner. She's going through a rough time, Jake, my mom said, her voice soft and full of sympathy. You know how hard it's been in finance with all the layoffs. I could have left it at that. People lose jobs, it happens. I figured she'd bounce back. But then, about a week later, my phone rang, and her name lit up my screen. I hadn't heard from her directly in months, so I picked up, out of sheer curiosity if nothing else. Jake! Hey! Her voice was all sweetness, and immediately, I knew something was up. Hey, I replied, waiting. So, you probably heard about my job, she began, her voice dipping into a melodramatic sigh. It's been really challenging, to say the least. I held back a snort. Challenging. Sure. Yeah, Mom mentioned it. I'm sorry to hear that. Thanks, she said a bit too quickly, before launching into the real reason for the call. Listen, I've been thinking. You mentioned that your company was doing well, and that you were even hiring a few more people. I think this might be the perfect opportunity for me to come on board. It took me a second to process. Was she actually asking me for a job? I cleared my throat, trying to keep my tone neutral. We do have some open positions, but they're mostly entry-level. Junior developer, customer support. Stuff like that. Oh, Jake, come on, she laughed, a high, dismissive sound. You know I'm overqualified for that. But I thought maybe you'd take me on as a project manager or something. I've got way more experience than any of your little team members, and I think it'd be a great fit. Her tone was so confident, so matter-of-fact, like she was doing me a favor. I could almost feel my teeth grinding together. Project management's a pretty technical role, I said, choosing my words carefully. Most of our project managers have coding backgrounds. It's not just managing tasks, it's understanding the actual work, you know? Oh, please, she scoffed. I managed multi-million-dollar accounts at the bank. I'm sure I can handle a few software projects. In fact, I could probably whip your little company into shape, teach your team what real management looks like. I let out a slow breath, counting to 3 in my head. This was my sister in a nutshell, swooping in, ready to take over without a second thought, like she was entitled to it. And it wasn't like she was asking, she was expecting. Well, I said finally, trying to keep things polite, I'll think about it. Her voice sharpened immediately. Think about it? Jake, come on. We're family. And after everything I did for you back when you were starting out. I mean, I did help you with rent a few times, remember? Ah, there it was. The rent money. A few $100 she'd loaned me years ago, which she'd brought up at every family gathering since. I'd paid her back, of course, but that didn't seem to matter. I gritted my teeth and forced myself to respond calmly. Yes, I remember. And I appreciate that. But I can't just make up a role. I've got to think about what's best for the company. Oh, is that right? She replied, her voice suddenly cold. So, what, you're saying I'm not good enough? That I wouldn't be an asset to your company? She made air quotes around the word, as if what I'd built was some kind of joke. I wanted to snap, to tell her exactly what I thought of her attitude, but instead, I just repeated, "I'll think about it." It was all I could say without letting years of frustration boil over. The next few days were hell. She wouldn't let up, texting and calling constantly, sending me reminders about how much she'd helped me in the past, how I was supposed to support family. At first, I tried ignoring it, but then she did the unthinkable. She dragged our parents into it. Our mom called me up one evening, sounding worried. "Jake, your sister told us you're refusing to help her find work. She's going through such a hard time, and I thought family was supposed to be there for each other." I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. "Mom, it's not that simple. She wants a position that doesn't exist. And frankly, her attitude, it's not exactly what I want on my team. She's your sister, Jake. She helped you when you were struggling. Don't you remember? It's just one job. Give her a chance." "Mom, she's not willing to start where everyone else does. She's demanding a top position. You think that's fair to everyone who's been working with me for years?" Mom sighed, clearly torn, but it was obvious my sister had already gotten to her, framing me as the bad guy. "Just think about it, okay? For me." I hung up, fuming. My sister had gone from annoying to downright manipulative, twisting our family's loyalty to guilt-trip me into hiring her on her own terms. But that was nothing compared to what came next. The next weekend, my parents invited me over for dinner. I didn't think much of it, figuring they wanted to chat about the situation. But when I walked into their living room, I saw her sitting there, looking all smug and self-satisfied. My parents were on the couch, looking at me with that disappointed, "Let's all sit down and talk" expression. "Jake, we need to have a serious talk," my dad began, his voice heavy. I turned to my sister, who was sitting there with an innocent look, hands folded in her lap like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. "Jake, we're worried about you," my mom added, her brow creased in concern. "Your sister told us you've been a little harsh with her. She's been going through a lot, and we just don't understand why you're refusing to help her out." "I tried to help," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "But she wants a senior role, with a salary that's way out of our budget. She's not asking for a job. She's demanding a position she's not qualified for." My sister scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Oh, here we go. You think you're so much better than me, because you've got your little startup. Newsflash, Jake. I've been in real jobs, managing real money, not playing around with code all day. You're just threatened because you know I'd do a better job than you." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Better job? You don't even know what we do. You just want the title and the paycheck, and you think I should hand it over because we're family?" My sister's face twisted with anger. "Wow, Jake. I can't believe how ungrateful you are. After everything I've done for you, after all the times I helped you when you were scraping by, this is how you repay me? By acting like I'm beneath you." I could feel my patience snapping, piece by piece, as she went on with her self-righteous rant. Years of biting my tongue, letting her undermine my choices, and pretending her opinion didn't matter all caught up with me. But I wasn't that broke kid anymore, desperate for validation. I was a man who'd built something real, and I wasn't going to let her tear it down. "You know what? Let's get one thing straight," I said, my voice calm but cold. "You didn't help me out of the goodness of your heart. Every dollar you lent me, every so-called favor, came with strings. You held it over my head for years, using it as an excuse to tear me down every chance you got. You thought you were entitled to look down on me because you had some corporate job that you could slap on a business card." She scoffed, crossing her arms. "Oh, please, Jake. Don't act like you're some kind of victim. I was only trying to help you see reality. You'd be nowhere if it weren't for people like me, keeping you grounded." "No, I'd be nowhere if I had listened to people like you," I shot back, and for the first time, I saw her face falter. "People who told me I'd fail, that I was wasting my time. But I didn't fail, did I? I succeeded, without your help. And now, you're here asking me to give you a shortcut because you think you deserve it. Do you even realize how messed up that is?" Our mom, looking more distressed than I'd ever seen her, interjected. "Jake, that's enough. This isn't helping. We're family, and we need to stick together." "Mom," I said, my voice softening for just a moment. "I love you, and I get that you want us to get along. But this isn't about family. It's about respect. I'm not going to hand her a position that others have worked years to earn, just because she's my sister. It's not fair to my team, and frankly, it's not fair to me. My sister was glaring at me now, her face twisted with rage. Unbelievable. You think you're some big shot just because you're running a little company. Do you even realize how ridiculous you sound? You're acting like you're the CEO of Apple or something. You're nothing but a glorified IT guy, playing with his little team of geeks. Yeah, and who's the one asking the IT guy for a job? I fired back, unable to hide the sarcasm in my voice. She stood up, grabbing her purse like she was ready to storm out. But instead of leaving, she turned to our parents, pulling out her last card. Well, if he's going to treat me like this, then maybe he doesn't deserve our support at all. Mom, Dad, you know how much I've been there for you both financially, helping out with bills and everything. Maybe you should think twice about who you side with here. I was stunned. I knew she could be manipulative, but trying to use our parents' financial situation to pressure me? That was a new low, even for her. Dad, who'd been mostly quiet up until now, looked at her in shock. Are you threatening us, your own parents, just because Jake won't give you a job? She faltered for a split second, as if realizing she might have gone too far. But then, with a huff, she doubled down. I'm just saying, maybe you'd be better off with someone who's actually going to support the family, instead of someone who thinks he's above it all. I shook my head, feeling a strange mixture of anger and pity. You're unbelievable. This whole time, you've acted like you're entitled to everything, respect, success, even control over our family. You think everyone should bend over backward just because you're successful. But now that you've hit a rough patch, suddenly you expect all of us to drop everything to prop you up? She glared at me, her face a mask of defiance. You're just jealous. You always have been. I had the career, the success, and you couldn't handle it. Maybe I was jealous once, I admitted, surprising even myself with the honesty. But I'm not anymore. I'm proud of what I've built, and I don't need your approval. But I'm done being guilt-tripped into handing things over to you. If you want a job, if you want success, you're going to have to earn it. Just like everyone else. There was a long, tense silence. My sister looked around, as if waiting for someone to back her up. But our parents were quiet, watching her with expressions that were more sad than supportive. Finally, she scoffed and turned toward the door. Fine. I don't need this. I don't need any of you, she spat, her voice trembling with anger. You'll all regret this when I get back on my feet. You'll see. With that, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The silence that followed was thick and heavy, like the aftermath of a storm. Mom looked at me, her face filled with a complicated mix of emotions. Jake, I didn't know she felt that way. I'm sorry. I had no idea things had gotten this bad between you two. It's okay, Mom, I said, feeling a strange sense of relief despite everything. Honestly, I think it's been building up for years. Maybe it's better this way. Dad nodded slowly, looking thoughtful. You're right, son. She needed to hear that. And frankly, I think we did too. For the first time in a long time, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. I'd spent years feeling guilty, like I owed her something just because she'd helped me out once. But standing up to her, setting those boundaries, it felt like I was finally taking back control. The weeks that followed were quiet. My sister didn't reach out, and I didn't either. I focused on my work, on growing the business, and for the first time, I felt free of her shadow. My parents eventually came to understand my side, and while things were still a bit tense, they no longer pressured me to reach out or make amends. But then, one evening, I got a call from a mutual friend. Hey Jake, you wouldn't believe who I ran into at a networking event, he said, laughing. Your sister. She was telling everyone she was a consultant for your company, helping you get off the ground. Kept talking about how she practically built your business. I couldn't help but laugh, shaking my head in disbelief. Even now, after everything, she was still trying to rewrite the narrative, to make herself look like the hero. But I didn't care. I knew the truth, and so did my team, my friends, and the people who mattered. That night, I sat down with a beer and reflected on everything that had happened. I realized that I'd spent years letting her opinion of me shape my own self-worth. But in the end, I didn't need her approval or her validation. I'd built something real, something that was mine, and no one could take that away from me. My sister might never change. She might go through life believing that she's owed respect, success, and loyalty without ever earning it. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I'd set my boundaries, stood my ground, and made it clear that I wouldn't be manipulated. And as far as I was concerned, that was the perfect response, a response she'd never see coming.